Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. This week, we've got guest and fellow horseman Kark Haikara joining us. How's it going, Kark?
Good. How are you doing, Mike? Oh, we
You
just
know, getting sorted out here. It's like as everyone knows, I just moved, so it's been a real grind getting everything together. But back in action. I think over the next couple of weeks, things are going to be returning to normal and all that.
yeah. It's awesome. Thanks for inviting me on to Necromaniacs because, like I said to you before, that this was actually the first of your podcasts I got into after I found out you had podcasts through Jackie through in a Necrosphere. You guys talked about it, so and I got into Necrosphere and like listened to like all the episodes a couple, however many years back it was, like 5 years ago now. Yeah, 6 years
Something
ago,
like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this one's a little bit more like accessible for people and that like maybe everything went black has like developed more into an acquired taste, I think.
Well, you cover a lot of different stuff with everything went black, particularly when you go further back and you're still doing like martial arts episodes and all kinds of stuff. You've had a wide varied history with everything went black. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think Necro, it's just a bit, since it's just horror movies, it's a little different. But I
Yeah.
mean that it's because of because when you listen to Necro that we became friends. So because I remember messaging you about recommending some stuff. I read the Nameless, that Grant Morrison comic.
Yeah, that was really cool, man. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I reread that like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It's a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's sick as fuck. I haven't read it in a while, but it's definitely like one of my favorite Grant Morrison comics.
Hell yeah.
Like some cosmic horror, kind of appropriate for this episode.
Well, yeah, actually, what's kind of cool about this episode is it kind of goes hand in hand with stuff that you and I have been discussing on our Darkness Weaves episodes over at Everything Went Black. I mean, this one is that we're going to be covering later in this episode. We can get into it, but it's like it's science fiction, it's folks horror, it's cosmic horror. It's got and it has just that English like quirkiness to it. It's like such a interesting like movie. Like out of all the Quatermass movies, I think this is probably my favorite one.
Definitely. And it definitely is pretty relevant to all the episodes we do on Everyone Black and SOL NOX of our both the Eldritch Tales and then Darkness Weaves and everything. So
Yeah. But before we get going, I just want to shout out the rest of the horsemen. Kark is a fellow horseman, so it's
yeah.
appropriate that we're doing this episode. So kicking everything off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666, and Brandon and I have been doing our Black Lodge episodes. We're going to be starting season 2 of Twin Peaks the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Tuesday is Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere, which is in a lot of ways kind of the center in which I feel we all orbit around in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? I feel like everyone kind of met each other through Jackie's podcast in a weird way.
Yeah, I think for the most part.
Yeah. Wednesday, of course, is Everything Went Black and SOL NOX. I'm sorry, oops, not SOL NOX. Wednesday is Everything Went Black and Iblis Manifestations. Thursday is Necro Thursday, which you're listening to right now, the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast, as well as SOL NOX, which Kark hosts. Friday is Spitball Media. Saturday is a day off, but Sunday, Kark returns with day 2 of SOL NOX. And as we've been sort of hinting at, we've been doing one of many collaborations, actually. Currently, we're wrapping up Darkness Weaves. And actually, by the time this episode comes out, we'll have finished at least this current phase of Darkness Weaves, where we're talking about the work of Karl Edward Wagner. And we will have recently completed his Bran McMorn pastiche novel, based on, of course, the Robert E. Howard character, Bran McMorn, Legion from the Shadows. And we're also kicking off the Savage World of Robert E. Howard, where obviously we're going to be going through all the Robert E. Howard stuff.
Yeah, that'll start. well, we've did episode one already, but we're really kick off next month with Kings of the Night, another Bram McMorn story. So,
Yeah, no, totally.
damn, what have you been watching or reading recently?
Well, as far as reading goes, I just finished up this speculative. I don't know what the hell you would call it. It's called Final Events by Nick Redfern. It's a book that came out, I don't know, like maybe came back in the early 2000s. It's like one of these UFO conspiracy government books. And I generally don't read stuff like that, at least not anymore. But this one just, I guess I was going through my books, packing, and I came across this one. I'm like, oh, I actually never read this one. And it just, I don't know, time and the place. Talked about Jack Parsons, who I'm always very interested in, Aleister Crowley, UFOs, the sort of demonizate demonizing of aliens by the Christians. Pretty interesting book. It has a little bit of a Christian bent to
Sounds
it.
cool.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I mean, I recommend it if you're into that stuff. And like, you know, it's the conspiracy rabbit hole. It's enticing, but you got to also keep in mind that the government's putting out disinfo too. So anything that you might think is a credible government source is most likely disinformation to distract you from something else. Just you got to keep that in mind when you're reading these things. And then for as
Right.
far as
That's all I think is
watching,
funny about people who talk about
oh sorry, what were you gonna
uh
say?
I was saying that's why I think it's funny when people talk about the government like disclosing all this information to us. You're like, can you trust anything they disclose to you? You know what I mean?
Not even remotely, man. It's always
Yeah,
like some distraction.
yeah.
And then as far as like watching, I watched this just completely by accident one night on Tubi. We watched a film called Buried Alive, which is very, very loosely based on the Edgar Allan Poe story. So it's more like a sleazier version of that with like, topless chicks and shower scenes and things like that.
When did it come out?
I'm gonna say it came out in 1990, maybe 89.
Oh, 90. Okay.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance is in it.
Looking at this real quick. Yeah, the Jennifer Jason Lee. Okay. I never heard this. It was a made for TV movie.
This one had bare breasts in it, so I don't think it was a made for TV. I mean, there's like a whole bunch of movies called Buried Alive.
Okay, so it's not this one. It's not the one with Jennifer Jason Lee and Tim Matheson. Let me see.
It's got I'm sorry, Donald Pleasance is in it.
Let's see. That's one that keeps coming up. Let me see.
Maybe it's before that. Maybe
Which
it's like
one
earlier than
has?
1990.
Oh, here it is. 1989. There
There
we
you go.
go.
All right. I guess
Yep,
1990.
found it. You just didn't know that there was a Buried Alive that came out in
A year later.
1989. Yeah, a year later.
Yeah.
Nude teacher at a facility for juvenile delinquent girls.
I know it has nothing to do. I mean, it's very, like I said, very loosely based on the Edgar Allan Poe story.
That's funny. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna have a juvenile delinquent school for girls, so we can have girls taking showers without their tops on and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
basically the only thing from the story that's one was, one of the girls just walled up behind like a brick wall and that kind of thing. So
right. What was it worth watching at least? Was it
it was
amusing?
fun. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
definitely fun. It was just happened upon it by accident, basically. It's like one night we were
yeah,
just looking for something to watch and we came across that. You know. What about you,
yeah.
man? Anything cool?
Um, just some Batman stuff. I mean, I've been most recently, I watched the second season of Cape Crusader, which I told you about, which
Yeah.
I recommend people check out. I liked the first season, and the second season just came out. I think it's better personally. Um, some people don't. It seems to have a pretty mixed reception, but I really liked it. Like I thought it was cool. It's different. I mean, they change. certain characters. It's like an Elseworlds version of Batman, right? Like it's like some of the like they have a the first season they made a Penguin into like a woman, you know, but I thought it was cool. They do stuff like that and it doesn't bother me that, you know, like I don't as much like it would have sometimes, but the way the show does it doesn't bother me because the show's still pretty dark and grim, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I gotta check this out. There's so many different iterations of like Batman and Elseworld stuff and different timelines and things like that. I can't say that I've been up to date on the happenings with Batman recently. And when I say recently, I mean the last 10 years.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the with Cape Crusader, it's like designed by Bruce Timm, who was one of the co-runners of Batman the animated series. And then it's also got co-produced by I believe Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams.
Oh,
So
cool.
but it's like it's set in kind of like you know, a version of of 1940s kind of America, you know, roughly inspired by the original Batman comics from the 30s and 40s. So some of the storylines are adaptations of those storylines. Like this season, Joker shows up and is an adapt. It's a their own version of an adaptation of the first Joker storyline,
Oh,
like in
cool.
Batman #1, and
Oh,
it's
like
pretty
Bob
cool. I mean,
Kane's
they
story.
take it pretty. It's pretty. Yeah, Bob Kane and Bill Finger. So like Batman's design is more like the original run, you know, with like the big ears and everything.
That's kind of cool. I should check that out.
So that's what's cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a version of that. So it's like a version of the of that time period where it's like slightly more advanced technology and stuff like that. Um, but I really like it. I thought it was good. And then I've just been reading, you know, getting caught up on all the DC finest that I have, like which are all like the big collections of old Batman comics told you about. Like the ones I
Yeah,
have currently are the ones from the 80s.
yeah, those are really cool, man. I'd like to get some of those at some point.
It's really nice having because they literally take it's like a whole year and it's all the issues of Batman and Detective Comics from a whole year. Um, so they started in 85 to 86 and then so far they've gone up to 89. Um, and then they're also going to be putting out some 70s ones
Oh,
later in the
wow.
year. So
That was a good era for Batman too in the 70s.
yeah, they're putting out some of the Denny O'Neil, you know, Neil Adams era Batman stuff and um, I think October and December, something like that. So
Oh,
I
cool.
definitely pick all those up. But yeah, as far as outside of that, I haven't really been watching a whole lot, to be honest. Like, I haven't been watching a lot of movies. I mean, I watched the movie we were going to talk about today, um, and haven't watched too much else that I can think of. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and of course, House of the Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been like, well, as we're recording this, there's only one more episode left. The season finale's coming up. So I'm in really into it. I think it's a great, you know, some people get upset that there aren't battles like every episode, but you got to tell the story, man. Like I think it's doing a good job with telling the story.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was maybe one more battle earlier in the season, but like maybe in the middle, just because they just kind of like skipped over it and it was kind of like, yeah, it happened, you know, like um but hopefully it'll lead up to a big battle at the end. I didn't figure there's gonna be a ton of them, but the ironic thing is the biggest battle of the entire war. They just kind of yada yada it. They're like, yeah, that happened, you know, we took his head, like like in the second episode or something like that. So, and that was actually the biggest battle in Westeros history. Like they did, so it's kind of funny that they skipped over that.
I actually enjoyed the saga, the downfall of Kristen Cole, Sir Kristen Cole. You know, just his whole like descent into this nihilistic, like doom laden persona that he had towards the end.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, and and that was done real well. And his kind of his uh his end was pretty close to the story, and I liked it because it's kind of like, just shows how little people actually respected him,
Yeah, interesting character. Like I always like the villains, honestly, like or the complicated characters in Game of Thrones. And I guess that's like on brand for Grimdark. You got Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. I found his character to be very interesting because of the arc that he went through. You know,
Yeah.
and and Kristen Cole, he's such a hateable character, but he was complicated, and I really enjoyed that, about it.
Yeah, you could almost kind of feel bad for him in a way because he just like he got his life got like taken all the up by these like nobles basically, and like he's been essentially been manipulated, and you see that he wanted to like break free and be his own man at the end, and yeah, yeah, I think that, and it's funny because the show like nobody really is necessarily a hero because our kind of more protagonists of the show are like Damon and Rhaenyra aren't exactly good people either. So you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, Damon is like arguably a good guy. He's done a lot of, more darker things throughout the first three seasons. And but he's my favorite character. I love him.
yeah,
I think he's like the favorite of everyone's really.
yeah, he is awesome. And what's his name? Matt Smith was like perfect as Damon.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a big fan of his actually.
I've
Yeah.
been enjoying Orman this season too because he's just so fucking he's just so conceited and but it's like but oddly like charismatic. You know what I mean? So you can kind of. But he just like he really thinks he's better than everybody, and it's so funny.
I imagine I visualize him as being like the commander of like a Roman legion or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
totally.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very, and once again, another interesting, villain,
Yeah, and he's just and it's like weird like quirks they gave him with like the smelling, and he always has like incense burners everywhere, and it's really funny. Like the I think it's just the actor. I'm not sure what his name is. He just plays him like perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been like one of I think I said the first episode almost feels like Patrick Bateman, medieval Patrick Bateman in a way, because
I
he's
could see
just got
that.
that kind of quality to him. You know what I mean?
I could definitely see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just totally like this facade.
Who were they running from? What have they seen? Whom do they fear? There are 5 million answers to these questions, and every one of them is a shocker.
No, I saw it. I saw it. Horrible. Horrible.
Terror, 5 million years old, spills into our time to make two worlds collide.
Well, that leaves us with this week's episode. We're covering Quatermass and the Pit. And I was directed by Roy Ward Baker and written by the great Nigel Kneale, who is a bit of a hero in the BBC television. But as far as films, he's done The Woman in Black, The Stone Tape, which is a great, that's a movie. That's a great movie.
Yeah,
And
so
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that was also a BBC thing. I do believe so.
Yeah, I've only seen it as like on like physical media, so I don't know what actual format it was. Was it like a multi-part series on the BBC?
No, so it was broadcast on BBC Two as a Christmas ghost story.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
it was
Yeah,
part of that series, like with like um uh Whistle and I'll Come to You and all that kind of stuff.
right on.
All
Yeah,
the
so
all
it's
the
some MR
MR
James
James.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, so the Christmas ghost story that they would do wasn't just MR James. They did a lot of MR James, but they also did their own stories, and Stone Tape was one of like their his own stories they did for that.
and Nigel Kneale also had a hand in writing Halloween 3, like a version of the script for Halloween 3. But
He,
he removed his name because some producers got involved and they changed the story around, and he ended up stepping away from that.
Yeah, and I think John Carpenter wanted to change some stuff, and Nigel Kneale kind of like threw a fit about it. And it's got, I mean, and obviously like Nigel Kneale is such a huge influence, so it's like a hero for John Carpenter. You can tell like all of John Carpenter's stuff is very Nigel Kneale, and it must have been real disappointing having that experience. But he didn't stop him from continuing to all like tribute him, like Prince of Darkness. He called himself Quatermass, and like
Martin Quatermass. Yeah.
yeah, as his like name for his screenwriter name, and then uh relevant to this movie in the mouth of madness, the place is called Hobbs End in that movie, and that's a direct reference to this movie.
Also, Prince of Darkness is, I think, the most Nigel Kneale heavy of his films.
Yeah.
Just like with the technology and the science, and the connection of science and supernatural, and the otherworldliness of the sort of emanations of evil from a different dimension, like that kind of stuff is very much, I feel, influenced by the Nigel Kneale writing.
You could almost say that Prince of Darkness is in some ways like an adaptation of this movie. Like he takes like a similar, it's not quite the same because it's not the archaeological quality and everything that we'll get into, but um it's like this thing like from the ancient past is like you know reaching out and manipulating everybody. It's very very close.
Absolutely. I mean, in the case of the Prince of Darkness, it was a church,
It
and
was the goo that gooey the
yeah,
yeah that thing inside of like the underneath the church inside of the containment thing. Remember, like
yeah,
that was like the actual Prince of Darkness. I love that.
yeah, yeah. Really good cast here. We've got Andrew
Like,
Keir as Professor Bernard Quatermass, James Donald as Dr. Matthew Roney. We have got the beautiful Barbara Shelley as Barbara Judd, and I almost didn't recognize her the first time I saw this movie. I'm used to seeing her in like the more period piece stuff from
Barbara
Hammer.
Shelley. Yeah,
Yeah. um,
yeah. I didn't recognize her at first because totally used to seeing her as like in like Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and
yeah.
and the Gorgon and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Julian Glover as Colonel Breen. I'm trying to think who else would be notable here. Uh, there's a lot of people in this film, but I guess that those are pretty much the
That's pretty
main.
much those. Yeah, I would say those are the main characters. And it was cool
Yeah.
seeing Julian Glover, like and what's funny is that the at the end his character gets melted just like his character does in Return of the Jedi or not sorry, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
I was wondering if maybe that was a nod and Steven Spielberg and Lucas put in like to him getting melted like he did in the end of this movie.
Could be. All right. So this film, it touches upon a lot of interesting things that lately have been like this fascination of mine. And I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit with like ancient spacecraft or technology being unearthed in a modern era, quote unquote modern era. And sort of the interdimensional nature of superstition. And I don't know, it's interesting, man, like how this where science and the supernatural meet. I think that really is kind of the point of all of this particular film. And then, of course, I like to reference Prince of Darkness too. That the two similar films where it's like man's like superstition seeking a way to explain what is actually part of like the natural world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, it was in it. Julian Glover was in the Last Crusade, not Raiders of the Lost Ark. Last
Right.
Crusade. Yeah, he drank the from the yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, that was gonna bother me. Yeah, I think that this movie taps into that. It's like this. That's one thing about this movie that's a little different is that it's like because there's this archaeological thing because it's set up that pretty simple setup. There's like you have the there's a metro station at Hobbs End, which used to be called Hobbs Lane at one point in time. They find out, and it's on and that this metro station they're like doing some like a new metro line or something like that. And as they dig, they discover all these like bones, and then these archaeologists are called to come in, and they find that these bones are actually like very abnormal and very old, like some of the oldest bones they've ever seen on the planet. And then as things go on, they uncover like this part of like this like weird metal that you can't stick anything to. And at first they think it's a bomb,
Yeah.
but then once they get out and the military comes in and they clear it off, it's like obviously a spaceship. Even though Julian Glover's character is like it's a V2 rocket, or he's just like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
total denial in this movie, which it ends up his denial is what causes the kind of apocalypse at the end of the movie.
Well, what's kind of interesting too is you basically have like Roni, who's the archaeologist, and you got and Barbara who works with him, and you've got Quatermass, who's sort of this man of science, but also understands that sometimes there's these unnameable forces out there in the world and in the universe that maybe science can't describe fully. And then you've got Colonel Breen, who is like the pragmatic military guy who, even though all of these factors are adding up to there being some unexplainable phenomenon going on, he wants to go down with the ship saying that this is like some sort of secret, unexploded German bomb or some, top secret German, like craft that was like crash landed there or something like that.
Yeah, and by the end he comes up to this crackpot story that it was planted here by the Germans during World War II as a psychological operation against the British people. Like just total like nonsense. But the thing about the movie that's funny is that he feeds that stuff to like the minister, prime minister, and stuff because that's what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So that they can like calm the public down, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what ends up causing the catastrophe. But it's like that kind of dichotomy of the kind of fight between these guys, particularly Quatermass and Breen, is like a big part of the movie. And to me, Quatermass is what a true scientist in the sense that his mind isn't like he hasn't decided what the world is. You know what I mean? Like he's open to that there might be stuff that we don't know, and that he wants to discover what that is. You know what I mean? And the same thing with the archaeologist guy. Like, they are kind of true scientists where they have like information that might go against their previous idea of what the world is, but to them that's exciting. You know what I mean? That's like something to at first it's exciting. It's something to really delve into.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, and Breen once again just like keeping everything firmly planted, in the mud, basically. Um, what was interesting about this is I remember when I was a kid when I first saw this on like television, it's like the idea that they dug stuff up in the mud inspired me to go out and dig all these holes, hoping that I would find, you know, relic or fossil or something like that.
Yeah, like watching this made you want to just like go out and dig everywhere and see what you could find.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. So I was like always searching for like some sort of skulls or, weird bones or something. I never found anything, obviously.
Were you hoping one day you'd find like an alien craft in the ground or something?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's what this movie inspired me to do. And like I hadn't seen this film in a while. Like I remember I watched the Screambox version or the Scream Factory version that came out a few years ago. But I remember even then watching it again where they were like digging through the mud and they'd find these skulls and they were like knifing, they had these knives, these like implements they were using to clear off the mud. And I'm like, oh yeah, that reminded me when I was a kid digging with these like shovels, like in the dirt and everything. If I'd find like a rock or something, oh, this has got to be like some fossil from like the prehistoric times or something, you know?
Yeah, I definitely did the same, kind of inspired by at the time when I was a kid, it was like Jurassic Park and stuff like that. It's like them like digging at the start of the movie, like paleontologist and archaeologist. Like when I was a kid, I really want to be an archaeologist when I grew up and go and Indiana Jones was actually was another inspiration. Like I wanted to be like Indiana Jones, as a kid, like I wanted to go around places and dig them up, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about these, they reconstruct basically from the bones what these humanoids look like, and they're, they have these like representations of what they are. And, there's some sort of like missing link or um strain of humanity that just never developed into anything, like one of these like evolutionary dead ends, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're, yeah, that's the thing is I wasn't sure if they were a dead end or if they were just like a stage on our growth. I wasn't 100% clear on that. Yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
either way, they're at some point in, and they're like saying they're like millions of years old, so like older than even the fossils they found in Africa.
Yeah, yeah. So the timeline is different, so
Which
yeah,
which
I'm
which
sorry,
is
go
actually
ahead.
kind of true that they found stuff now that contradicts the timeline that was accepted, like in like Indonesia and different places, even in America, they found some fossils that totally, some bones that totally changed everything. So it's pretty interesting. Like the movie was already getting at that.
But the so far the actual craft is impenetrable. Like they can't burn it with like a oxyacetylene torch or anything like that. They have like some, I guess what they were, diamond tipped drills were not doing the trick.
That
Uh
that scene is very effective when they have the diamond drill and they try it because there's like in the craft there's like this hatch thing, right? It looks like a hatch blew off of it or something.
yeah,
And you get in there and apparently they have to wear gloves because it's like the the metal is like some unknown metal that we have no idea what properties it has because like
yep.
you said it doesn't heat up, doesn't it?
Not
But
magnetic.
non-magnetic.
So it's
And on the
non-ferrous.
Yeah, and then on the inside it like burns people's hands like if they touch it with their bare hands, like
Yeah.
because it's like some type of weird. I think it almost said they it was like as like a frostbite or something, but it's not cold to the touch. But what happens is your hand burns, and even though it doesn't feel cold, like it's really quite creepy. And yeah, and they also find that circle makes up a pentagram on the
Yep.
inside as well, or a
Yeah.
pentagon. Yeah, and that part when they're trying to dig into it with the diamond cutter, I think is really cool because there's something going on when they're doing it. Like it's like emanating. It's like they think that it's like a quality of that the space creates this like ringing, but everything is around it is also shaking, even though they don't realize it when they're inside. So it's almost like the thing itself is emanating these waves out at them, which I think
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah, it also once again calls to mind some Carl Edward Wagner greatness in like Bloodstone, things like that, like in those stories where there's like this craft, you know, crashed. Also, even
Darkness Weaves.
Darkness Weaves too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and also Book of the New Sun, the Citadel is a crashed spaceship, like things like that. So that's like some of the coolest shit is when there's like a craft that's crashed and it's like I mean, Alien too. There's an alien spacecraft, it's like these things that are ancient, like ancient astronauts, these ancient space travelers that, the true purpose of what they were doing is completely lost. And that's what we have here. We've got this craft, this impenetrable hull. Who knows why it's buried underneath the streets of London,
One One of my favorite parts of the movie too is when early on they like across the street there's like this like burned out like dilapidated building like everything there's no one lives around this like it's like this kind of like like and no one can live there. Anytime people try to live there, like they end up leaving because they talk about how there's like they see these like apparitions and there's like this
Yeah.
um horrible like makes it these horrible feelings that they feel, like this like it's totally I love the aspect of them looking in the past and seeing like it's been like that's why the place is called Hobbs Inn because Hob is an old name for like the devil, like the of course like that's where you get like Hobgoblin and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
from. It's
No,
it's
totally.
like um and so this thing's been down there for however long and people have always both felt attracted and repulsed by it because they also say that the last time it was like uncovered was at some point in the Middle Ages or something, right? And they like caused this like huge so I think it was like some type of huge riot or something like that there.
Yeah, so just the presence of this thing, this is generating this energy that just makes it bad for people to exist there.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's kind of described as almost like electromagnetic or something. And that's why I like that part where they're digging into it with the diamond cutter because it seems to be emanating something that's making people feel sick from the inside.
exactly. So they have to subcontract out this civilian guy to come in there with I forgot the material that they're using for to cut into to try to cut into the hull. So he comes down there with this rig that he has, and they're talking about how he's doing all this top secret work for the government and everything, and even his drill doesn't seem to be working initially.
Yeah. But then and they go out and they're like, okay, this isn't working. And the guy is actually going to go in to, pick up all of his gear. And inside, at right in the center of the thing, there's like a little hole, and it's like dripping, so it's like melting.
Yeah,
And as they all go up there, the whole like this whole like th thing that they're trying to cut through just melts basically in front of them. And inside, there's these like three, basically like they almost look like grasshoppers or something, like
yeah,
locusts.
basically
I think
exactly
there's
like locust.
I think they're supposed to look like locusts. There's like these alien locust beings that were inside of this pod and like inside of all this like weird glass stuff. And what's weird is that they were probably dead, but they start rotting as soon as the air hits them. And so they pull them out and they do all these tests on them. And it's really, they're pretty disgusting looking.
Yeah, they do a good job of like showing that. Now, I want to say anyone who hasn't seen this film, okay, we're it's a great story. I love it. It's one of my favorite Hammer films out there. However, this movie came out in 1967. Okay, so you have to be aware of some of the limitations of special effects and all that sort of stuff. So, um, it's like Doctor Who level special effects, maybe, but nonetheless, it's a great story and compelling, great acting, like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, even though yeah, they're obviously like you're not really believing that they're real. Like, but it's like this still works. It's still cool. I think they look cool. And the thing about this movie is that it's a weird fiction story. So
Absolutely a weird fiction story.
a lot of stuff like the thing I was describing when they're trying to dig into it with the diamond cutter, um, it's like an internal thing that's happening to them. They don't, you know what I mean? Like it's like so the movie's trying to show the effect of like these unseen forces on people. And later on, it's like a wind blowing. You know what I mean? Like, and one thing that I always thought was funny is um, when that guy, the subcontractor you mentioned, gets like possessed or whatever by or he sees the locust and like, he's running. that and then also Barbara Shelley later made me think so much of Ghostbusters. 'Cause you
Oh yeah. Okay.
remember
Yep.
when what's his name gets possessed by
Rick
the
Moranis.
Rick Moranis and he's all like the way he was running and stuff
Yeah.
was exactly like
Hey,
in this
maybe
movie.
it could be that Quatermass has a pretty long reach when it comes to inspirations,
I
things like
guarantee,
influences.
yeah, I guarantee Dan Aykroyd has seen Quatermass in the Pit. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so only certain people seem to be resonating with it. So the drill contractor, I guess his name is Sladen. He has a very vivid experience with the emanations from the craft. More so than some other people. Same thing with Barbara too. She also has like some connection to this this the whole thing, the aliens, the spacecraft, the energy fields, the energy waves that are coming off of this thing. It's also affecting her, and she's connecting with this as well.
Yeah, well, it's like people can feel the feeling, but not everybody can translate that into something else, right? Like, and that,
Ironically,
yeah,
Breen also is someone who's connected with this emanation too, despite all of his pragmatism.
yeah, he attempts to. That's what I think that's a big part of why he's so dead set on like putting his head in the sand, because I think the whole thing really like challenges his very conception of reality. You know what I mean? And it's even worse later when the archaeologist guy like p posits that these aliens were doing genetic experiments on humans and are probably the reason humans exist.
Yeah, dude,
Like,
and it's like you kind of let the cat out of the bag, man. But that's like that's like the whole one of the coolest parts of the film is the recorded memories section of
yeah,
this thing. That Barbara, who's actually also reacting very strongly to this whole thing. There's of course we got some rig where that comes out, but they can visualize, like, I guess I'm gonna, for lack of a better term, I'm gonna call them dreams, but visions of this remnant of the narrative of what happened to these grasshopper creatures, these aliens, who apparently are from Mars, right? So they present this video of these visions to the ministry of the ministry, whatever you want to call them, and Breen is there, and it's these there's is it a war or something that's going on Mars where these legions of grasshopper aliens are being systematically killed.
like killing each other. It's
They're
like this
killing each
like
other. Yeah.
yeah, it's like this like culture of violence and yeah, it's like it's almost like they're they are locust creatures, so they act like locusts, right? So they're like attacking each other. It's like this Mars was inhabited by these creatures who engaged in endless warfare, endless
Yeah.
violence. Yeah.
Hence Mars, the god of war, warlike planet.
Yeah.
Um, so in order to save themselves, they wanted to colonize the earth by proxy, is the way that they use this, which I thought is the coolest concept to come out of this whole film.
Yeah, they want to because they can like shift their consciousness or something. Like they're like advanced species, so they're existing not only on the physical level but outside of the physical. That's why they're still able to affect the world,
Yeah.
even after their bodies are dead. It doesn't really matter. In a lot of ways, what just happened is they just let them free, to and what yeah they were trying to do genetic experiments on these like proto-humans they found or whatever or monkeys or whatever to make the perfect host for them essentially.
Yeah. So, combining their DNA with hominids, and that's what those the skulls that they found by the ship were these, I refer to them as like evolutionary dead ends, but let's say that they're part of maybe the evolution of humanity. And the people that react to these emanations have this grasshopper, locust, Martian DNA as part of their genetic code. So they're descendants of this effort that the Martians had.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that makes everybody like that's like horrifying to all these people, to a lot of people. The idea, it's just like Lovecraft idea that Mountains of Madness, where like that it's posited that humans were, created by the Shawgraphs um as like essentially slaves, like we're kind of like this cast off, like we're an accident, a cosmic joke essentially, like we're this accident of all this stuff that they're doing. It's
Yeah,
kind of like this is like yeah, we're like this manufactured by these like creepy evil locust aliens, Like that's God, not.
yeah, yeah. So this is like the concept is awesome here. It's like very cool. There's and also they're at one point they're consulting a historian too, and then, they're reading through this like Latin document, and they're finding references to these locusts and these creatures that look very much like these aliens.
Well, and I think there's throughout the whole thing, there's like a correlation between like the old portrayals of demons
Yeah,
and like with the horn demons, because these aliens are like locusts, but they have like these horns,
yeah, yep.
like and you can see why they look kind of like old like medieval demons in a lot of ways, and people see them all the time as like apparitions, like I mentioned earlier, like they see these like horned creatures, and so obviously like it's a correlation between hobgoblins as well, like the old stories of these like you know goblins running around. Makes me think of do you ever watch Hellier?
Oh
About
yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah,
totally. Hellier's
about
cool. Yeah.
about the Kentucky Goblin.
Yep.
Yeah, with the fuck, what's her name? I love their podcast, Haunted Objects podcast. I sent that to you, right? Like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen to that. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that podcast. It's like one of my favorite
yeah.
paranormal podcasts. Like, yeah, but it's kind of all relating to it's kind of funny because this movie tapped into all this kind of stuff that also is in existence outside of even the movie. You know what I mean? Like they're like these ideas of like the aliens being hobgoblin stuff goes further than this movie.
Well,
Like
actually, there's even uh like I was telling you about the book I just read, Final Events, and there's also just the Jack Parsons stuff and Crowley and his the doorway that was open when he contacted Lamb, that entity that looked like an alien, like when Crowley drew out the picture of Lamb,
yeah,
and it looked like what you would think, the typical alien head would look like. Um, and then like the Christian belief system of demons and aliens being the same thing, it all kind of connects with this, and Parsons, this stuff happened like, maybe 20 years before um Nigel Kneale wrote this. So I don't know if
uh,
he was checking out any of this stuff or whatever.
well, not even because Quatermass and the Pit was originally a BBC TV show that was released in '59, like a TV movie. So
Parsons, what, he died in like what, 1948 or something like that, 47.
let me look. Uh,
Yeah, so it's like in that same, like decade and a half earlier than all this.
Parsons died in '52.
Oh
So
shit. All right, I was way off. Well, not way off,
yeah.
but I was off. Okay. Yeah,
Well,
so
and
all this stuff is going on roughly in the same era, essentially.
Parsons was a huge fan of weird tales and science fiction novels, and one of his favorite things was Darker Than You Think. I think it's Jack Vance or something like science fiction novel, like
Yeah.
which I have a old '60s copy of that. So, there's always been this connection, like kind of like Kenneth Grant-esque connection between the occult and paranormal and aliens and everything, like and also weird fiction, science fiction, horror stories, like
Yeah, so
it's
so
like
Nigel
I
Kneale
think
was
that
pulling all
particularly
this
weird
stuff
fiction,
together. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and it's really cool. I mean, I haven't watched any of these 50. Okay, so originally this was 6 30-minute episodes on the BBC version. Um, are these ones still available? I know some of those old Quatermass TV shows are missing.
Yeah,
Like I wouldn't
I
see
haven't
that one.
seen the TV version of this. I saw like Quatermass Experiment and yeah, there's a box set that came out, a Hammer, one of those Hammer box sets of it's a 2 volume thing with Quatermass. So I'm sure it's
Yeah.
on one of those.
Yeah, because the Quatermass Experiment and Quatermass 2 were the and this one are the BBC, not sorry, the Hammer versions of the old BBC serials that are based on the ones from the 50s. I've never seen the 50s ones. I know that I think that not all of them are in existence because the BBC just taped over the original tape or something like that. So,
Crazy.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Nigel Kneale is just like the thing is that Nigel Kneale has a history of this because Stone Tapes, which we mentioned earlier, there's a whole supernatural, paranormal, theory that was taken from that called the stone tape theory, which is that exactly what it is in the movie that certain types of stone hold these like kind of recordings of acti people, and that's what people sometimes see as ghosts. You know what I mean? Like that was totally from that movie. So Nigel Kneale has this history of like theories that he comes up with, then going on to influence the real world as well.
I feel like the Stone tapes were on that might have been on Shutter for a while.
I believe it's on the Shutter right now, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so go out and check that out. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think of the whole idea that we're like that we've been like genetic like mutations like by some alien race? Like, what do you think of that?
I have like I wouldn't doubt that that actually is real, and I'll tell you why. Because all right, so our closest ancestor is the chimpanzee, right? And we're like 80% genetically similar to chimps. And but there's some fundamental differences between us and chimps. Like number one, that chimpanzees, and I talked about this on the on the primate episode I did with Mike, where chimps can't swim because they don't have the subcutaneous body fat that humans have, right?
Hmm.
So they sink. They don't they're not buoyant in water, right? Um, every other primate has that same quality except for humans, right?
Yeah.
So something about that makes me feel like I don't know why specifically that fucks with me so much, but it does. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there is something like we at some point we made this big leap.
Yeah.
Like all of Homo, Homo erectus, the Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, which are all kind of, I mean, they all interbred with each other and became what we are now. At some point, some leap happened, right? And some step into this other stage of evolution and this like intelligence and everything that we have. And then literally almost every single um ancient like belief system at some point things came from outside into to Earth and like taught us things. You think about
Right.
the Nephil, the fallen angels, the Watchers.
Yep.
There's the star people and like Aboriginal belief, in Australia. Like they have this belief that these like star people came down and taught humans things. There's similar belief systems in North American Indians. There's similar beliefs in Nordic mythology. There's the idea that Odin and Vildenve came down and infused us with life essentially, and then later came down and helped like you know uh, basically arrange our societal structure and stuff. Like there's just so many. It's in so many different cultures that something happened where something came into this reality and either from the space or from another dimension or from somewhere and physically affected us in some way. I do think that. It's just, what that looks like, that's up to personal belief, but I think something happened.
Well, in the case of these Martians in the Quatermass and the Pit, they seem to have brought this like aggro, chaotic, sort of vibe to humanity. Because what ends up happening, it's almost like it almost becomes like this zombie sort of film at the end, where everyone that's responding to the emanations of the the Martian craft are attacking the people that don't have that genetic structure. And there's like rioting and like people getting killed in the streets and things like that.
Yeah, the ending of the movie is apocalyptic, and it's the big part of it is Breen's fault because Quatermass is saying we shouldn't have so many people around because this thing seems to feed off of psychic energy. Like
Yeah,
anytime people got upset around it, it would power it up. Like it's almost like the ship itself seems to act like a psychic battery or some sort. And the entities seem to feed off the locust entities seem to feed off of human emotions, right? Like that's what it seems like to me. And and of course, like Breen and the Prime Minister and stuff, they totally disregard Quatermass and the archaeologist guy, and they run with the bullshit story that this was like a German psyop thing that they planted during World War II, and and then they open it up to the public to go and see, you know.
yeah, that's the beginning of the end right there for everyone.
Yeah, because that place gets packed with tons of people. They have like uh um they have news broadcasts, like TV broadcasts in there, and like a whole like, serve whole thing like, and that's one of the coolest parts of the movie too. I love the scene, and Nigel Kneale does this so well. The way that all that goes down is through the television broadcast. Like you're watching the television, and that's when these things start, things are starting to go wrong
Yeah, no,
because the
totally.
television broadcast cuts out, and it's just so creepy. Like I think that whole part's really creepy, the build up to everything just popping off, and like that one guy falling and burning himself, and then Barbara ends up kind of being the nexus for all the activity in a lot of ways. Like it starts manifesting through her. But then, yeah, it just becomes apocalyptic. I mean, there's like fires everywhere, like, and the thing is like emanating into the sky. Like, there's like a giant locust, like demon head in the sky.
Yeah, that part was
A-
cool.
And then Quatermass
Roni.
and Roni, they go, well, maybe the old stories of like iron through the, like of like the old Fae and like demon stories of like iron through it will like hell will do what we need to do. Maybe there's a reason why those stories are, transfix evil. So they decide to like use this crane to drive like because essentially at some point doesn't like the building explode or some shit. So like
Yeah, there's like the building explodes and they're that's where they come up with this idea about iron being
yeah,
a grounding conductor essentially.
because the ship gets like exposed, yeah, because the
Yeah.
building, yeah. And they see it, they're like, well, maybe, yeah, it's like a conductor, like, because it'll be earth the energy essentially that it's like dispelling. Which again, it's combining old folklore with like a kind of scientific, right
Yeah.
thing,
Uh, I mean that's the part I thought was the most interesting about it, where it's like, the idea of like, iron and the fairy folk and electricity going to ground, and basically they're short circuiting like this entity which is made out of pure energy. So they're grounding it and dissipating all the energy out of it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and you think too, like, yeah, like the electrical energy of all the people and all the machines and stuff that they brought down in that tiny space is part of what powered up the ship and the entity, you think?
I think so. I think that it was like almost like a capacitor or something, where all these like charges started accumulating, and that for the most part that Hobbs End was been vacant, abandoned, like no one was there. So the ship was dormant under the ground all this time, and then suddenly there's all these people and electrical conductors, and there's like a generator, and audio visual equipment, things like that. And that's what sort of awakened this whole thing and powered it up.
Right, because it's kind of like that's why like in the past, last time it was like uncovered to the air, like they had this all these riots and stuff in this area until they
Yeah.
buried it down. Yeah. So it's like something about this thing will just emanate this force around everywhere. And I almost kind of feel like it is possessing people as like the ghosts of these sort of, the spirits of these locust alien demons is like going around and infesting people essentially.
Yeah, no, totally. And we were talking about parallels with other um fallen angels and things like that. And I think it's like Eastern European folk. There's some element of like fallen angels uh possessing like the recently dead or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was.
Well, that's part of the original folklore of the vampire
Yeah, the
was that
vampire, yeah.
yeah, is that a lot of times it was either like a sorcerer or somebody who died and thus they're open for a demon to infest their body. That's one thing I love about Nosferatu, the one that Eggers did, because Orlok and that was basically a demon in a body, you know what I mean? Which is awesome. Like
Yeah.
you don't see that too often.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it's sick. Um, but yeah, so it's driving everybody crazy. I mean, and the thing is, like, the damage is pretty immense that's done in the space of the time, that until they transfix it eventually. Like, and the best part about the movie is that it kind of ends with like no real resolution. The end of the movie is Barbara and Quatermass like trying to catch their breath, and then the credits are just scrolling over.
Yeah, you don't know if this is gonna, the end of humanity, or like what's going on. This is happening in other parts of the world. Like, yeah, it's a pretty open-ended ending to the film. And
Which
Roni sacrifices himself too at the end.
Yeah, and that part of it is again much like a lot of John Carpenter. You think about Prince of Darkness, the ending of that, it's the same way. It's like you don't really know if they actually fixed the problem or not. You know what I mean? Like it seems like maybe for now, but eventually the apocalypse is still going to happen. And that's kind of the vibe here.
And also just there's also the idea going back to Crowley and Jack Parsons, where similar to that, where there's the belief that they opened up a portal to let in all this like negative entities. It's sort of the same thing here at Quatermass in the Pit, where if they had just left well enough alone and not dug into this underground like that and uncovered the spaceship, this would have remained, everything would have been fine.
Yeah, and even yeah, it's like and every step of the way they kind of did the wrong thing. So
Yeah.
like it's very Lovecraftian. It's like that idea of like the black seas of infinity, like and most of us are happy in our ignorance, you know what I mean? Like we don't want to know the truth. Like it's kind of that whole idea in this like if they hadn't kept probing at it and Breen is like the most responsible because Quartermass tells him don't open it up, don't try to like open this up.
He's like,
Like
nonsense. you
yeah,
know.
he was like, no, we're gonna do it. Like he's so like pigheaded about trying to, you know, um, that he's essentially the Breen guy's responsible 100% for the devastation, and all these people dying and going crazy and murdering each other. I mean, it's all his fault essentially.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he's like not really a conventional villain. It's just that he's just so close-minded and so stubborn in his like attempts to be denial of what it is they found, that's caused the problem. And I think that's kind of a good example for humanity. Like, if you find something like that, don't be total denial and pretend like it's not there in front of your own face. You know what I mean?
Nah, totally, man. Yeah.
Because that is the downfall of a lot of humans, I think, is having evidence to the contrary of their belief system and yet stubbornly sticking to their belief system, like no matter what,
So on a scale of 1 to 5, what do you give this film?
I definitely give this film probably like a 4.5. I mean, I think it's obvious. I think it's pretty perfect. I mean, the pacing, the way that it's told, the cinematography, everything is, obviously like we mentioned earlier, like the effects and stuff are very 67, like Hammer horror, but I don't hold that against it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I give it a 5 out of 5. I think that for me, it covers like all the bases. I love the acting is great in it. It was one of my childhood favorite movies to watch, like on Channel 9 or whatever the hell, whatever channel was the one that did all the Hammer movies when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, and that's totally taking away the shortcomings of the special effects because once again, 1967, I'm not gonna like hold that against the film, but it's definitely I like it more as time goes on because when I first saw it as a kid, it was like before I really started reading a lot of the stuff that I read later on in life and understanding some of the occult stuff and the more esoteric elements. And then also looking at science and the supernatural in a different way that I do now. Um, yeah, it's just I think it's great, and I saw the film way before I even read any kind of like folk horror too. So there's a lot of those elements to it. So it kind of combines all those things, a little bit of Lovecraft, and then also as I grew to become a fan of the John Carpenter films, I see how this movie, specifically this film, informed like a lot of my favorite John Carpenter movies. So yeah, I'd give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, this movie is very influential, and to me, I see why it's very inspiring because it's like hit if you're into this kind of stuff, if you love weird fiction stuff, the paranormal, like the weirdosphere type of stuff. I mean, all these things. This is a perfect movie for you because it taps into every single one of those. You got ancient aliens, you got an ancient evil that they uncover. It's almost got this kind of demonic evil quality to it, which is awesome. It's got this kind of like but then it's like a scientific thing at the same time. So I don't know. I think it's an amazing movie. And I think the ideas in it are very inspiring. They're very like they get you thinking, Um I almost think of like The Church, like the movie The
Oh yeah,
Church,
yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Michele Suave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's another movie of them uncovering ancient evil. Pretty much anytime you dig up some type of ancient like thing, I'm there for it. I'm all about that.
Yeah, and even the Carl Edward Wagner element too, man. Like you
Oh
can
yeah.
see how he was like influenced by this as well, maybe,
I guarantee because Wagner would have been probably what, 20 something when this came out?
Yeah, yeah, this would have been somebody who's totally into.
Yeah, because I think he's a little bit older than my dad. Like he totally would have seen this in the theater, I'm sure when it came out and or I can see like how this could have inspired, that's part of why this inspired like Carpenter. A lot of those guys from that generation because they're all like the kind of baby boomer-ish, the early baby, older baby boomers and they're Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, all of them, I'm sure. And but like I really particularly can see the influence maybe on Wagner because if you think about Bloodstone,
Darkness
um,
Weaves.
Darkness Weaves, wasn't there one of the short stories that was something similar of them uncovering some
Yeah, I'd have to think back to like,
yeah.
yeah, they're always uncovering something in those Kane stories, it seems like.
I love that aspect of like deep time, these things like this also kind of taps into reminds me of Lovecraft with like the rats in the walls where you have these like the kind of like subhuman thing, things
Oh, right. Yeah.
that are kind of parts of evolution or whatever, like
Yep.
it's so cool. I love it.
Well, thanks for coming on board for this episode. This is
Yeah,
something I
thanks for
definitely
having me.
wanted to talk about with you for sure, because just from all the work that we've been doing with Darkness Weaves, and it made sense, I think, to have you on as a guest to go over this film.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was definitely an honor to be on Necromaniacs after all these years. Very cool. So perfect movie for us to talk about too for it.
Hell yeah. And thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care.
Oh yeah.
You put a curse on me. I felt the needle burn inside. And you never let me rest in peace. No, 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 no way. When they dropped me in the ground, I just kept on going down. Curse on you, blood brother!